Good morning. We're just going to give folks a moment to come in from the waiting room. As a reminder, when you are entering from the waiting room, please do remain on mute unless or until you are appearing or testifying before the board. We'll give just another moment to make sure folks have entered the waiting room from the waiting room and have connected to audio. Good morning. This is a hearing before the licensing board for the city of Boston. Today is Tuesday, March 28th, 2023. Today's hearing is being held pursuant to temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That is what allows us to meet virtually. Today's hearing is being recorded and will be posted to the City of Boston's website. Before I review procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce.
Thank you, Danny. Good morning. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I am Chair of the Boston Licensing Board, and today I'm joined by my fellow commissioners, Commissioner Kiana Saxon and Commissioner Liam Curran.
Thank you. Once again, please ensure that your audio and visuals are working properly. I will call each item in the order that it appears on this morning's agenda. I will then ask who is present on behalf of the licensee, who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department, and whether there are any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify. I will then swear in all parties. After that, the police report will be read into the record, and the licensee or their representative will have the opportunity to make a brief statement, followed by questions by the chair and commissioners. Again, all testimony would be limited only to those individuals with firsthand personal knowledge of the alleged incident. Beginning with the first item on this morning's agenda, calling item number 1, the Boston Leco Corp. Doing business as Legacy Boston, located at 71 to 79 Warrington Street. Dated the incident November 4th, 2022. Assault and battery, employee on patron, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee? Oh, I see you speaking and you are on mute currently. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you. If you could please identify yourself for the board.
Hi, how are you? I'm Jeff Delpidio. I'm one of the managers here. I'm here with Chuck Delpidio. And I'm here with securities.
Antonia Jeremiah.
Internal Jeremy.
Great. Thank you very much. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Officer Murray.
Thank you, Officer Murray. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the incident who wish to testify this morning?
My name's Paul Lewis. I'm also present.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. If you are planning to testify, could you please turn your camera on so we can swear you in? There we go.
Yep.
Thank you. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Yes.
I do.
Thank you very much. Officer Murray, if you could please proceed with reading the police report into the record.
About 12:07 a.m. on 11/4/2022, officers Grady and Murray and the Alpha 102 Alpha responded to a radio call for an investigate person removal at 79 Warrington Street, Legacy Nightclub, Boston. The Alpha 910 Downey also assisted. Upon arrival, officers separate the involved parties. Officer Grady spoke with 2 individuals identified as Alex Lewis and Paul Lewis. Both A. Lewis and P. Lewis are married, stated they are from Maine, and they are visiting for the night and staying at a nearby hotel in Copley Square. A. Lewis stated they identified as transsexual. A. Lewis stated that they were in the club Legacy, and at some point a female security guard pushed/struck him in his ribs/torso area. A. Lewis complained of rib pain. P. Lewis stated they were in the club, stated that the manager, identified as Terrence Gathers, had asked his brother, identified as Trayvon Lewis, to leave because he had fallen on the stairs and they believed he was too intoxicated. P. Lewis stated that an unknown male came up to him and pushed him, as well as Gathers. P. Lewis stated he believed that the club staff may have thought there was going to be an issue with his payment for their drink because his credit/debit card wasn't working. But he stated to officer that he told them he had cash and that he wasn't trying to skirt the bill. P. Lewis stated The pushing occurred inside the club near the bar area. A. Lewis stated the strike/push to their ribs occurred by the back door. Officer Murray spoke with security guard Antonia Jeremiah. Jeremiah stated they were attempting to kick out a group of males because one of the males was too intoxicated. Jeremiah stated they refused to leave. Jeremiah stated one of the males, P. Lewis, came back in to get his debit/credit card, but it declined. Jeremiah stated she explained that they would have to pay the bill before they left, but P. Lewis refused to pay and wanted his debit/credit card back. Jeremiah stated that P. Lewis attempted to go behind the bar and was belly bumping her to go behind the bar. Jeremiah stated that she advised him that he couldn't go back there, and P. Lewis stated, "What are you gonna do about it?" Jeremiah stated she told P. Lewis the police were on the way. Jeremiah stated P. Lewis then paid the bill. Officer Murray spoke with Robert Cardoso. Cardoso stated he heard a male P. Lewis yelling, quote, "You're black and Dominican," end quote, and was being aggressive. Cardoso stated he tried to de-escalate the situation. Officer Murray spoke with an individual identified as witness Orslal Moscoso. Moscoso stated he works as a barback and P. Lewis was accusing them of stealing his debit/credit card. Moscoso stated P. Lewis tried to go around to the back of the bar and was pushing Jeremiah. Moscoso stated that Cardoso told him to stop. Moscoso stated P. Lewis then wanted to fight Cardoso. Moscoso stated he thought P. Lewis was going to hit the bartender, so he got in the middle and then P. Lewis walked away. Officer Murray spoke with Gathers. Gathers stated he had gotten a call that he was needed at the bar. Gathers stated he had brought P. Lewis's brother T. Lewis outside, and then he went back downstairs and grabbed P. Lewis to tell him to calm down. Gathers stated that P. Lewis hovered over him. Gathers stated he then restrained P. Lewis by his shoulders, to which P. Lewis was then screaming, "Assault, assault." Gathers stated he thought P. Lewis was trying to charge towards the bar area, so he grabbed his waist in the front to stop him from moving forward. Gathers stated that once they got him outside, he started screaming and recording them on his phone. Officer Murray spoke with the manager, Del Pito. Del Pito stated he brought P. Lewis to the dressing room/employee area. Del Pito stated that P. Lewis paid the bill and was then escorted out the back. Officers called BEM for A. Lewis ribs/torso pain. A. Lewis was evaluated on scene but refused further medical treatment. The Alpha 910 Downey notified for a licensed premise violation. P. Lewis was advised of the I number. Body worn camera activated.
Thank you, Officer Murray. Mr. Delpidio, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, so we got a call from security that there was some customers that weren't behaving correctly, and then the security said we're gonna ask them to leave. I said, that's fine, let me know if you need any help. And then I got a call on the radio saying that his card's declined and he's very upset about it, and he's trying to go behind the bar to get his card back. So this is when I'll pass it off to Ms. Jeremiah, because that's the spot where she was partaking.
Hi, how you doing? So as I approached the scene, the victim, he was very aggressive, trying to enter behind the bar, which customers are allowed. I let him know that he's not allowed back there. He started yelling aggressively and beer bellied me with his belly, asking what am I gonna do, that he was gonna get his card one way or the other. I let him know that my managers are on his way to assist the situation, and that I wasn't gonna do anything, that I'm just have to stop, the interest of him becoming behind there. He was just briefly yelling, calling me all type of inappropriate words, if I could say them, calling me Hispanic bitches, and he's gonna get his card and he's gonna enter without me. There was a customer that seen the situation, came to help, like, this is a female, you shouldn't be yelling in her face. He got aggressive, he turned his energy on that person. By that time, my managers came and exited him towards the back.
So that's when Terrence and I got there, and we restrained him by his shoulders, and we brought him back into the back area, trying to talk about him about the bill. He was there with his husband, and they started yelling at each other, and about the bill or whatever. He finally pulled out cash. He went back in and paid the bartender, and that was it. And then we brought them up the back staircase to exit them. And I sent you guys our surveillance video on this part. So I hope you were able to look at it, because that's when they brought up the staircase, Alex ran up the stairs, which goes up to the hotel. And thank God I didn't run up after Alex. I just yelled up, "That's the hotel. The exit's right here. Please come back down." Paul ran up after her, more arguing up there. And then you can see that Alex went up the stairs fine, but Alex came down the stairs with Paul needing assistance. So I'm not sure what happened up there. And then we went outside, and thank God the police were there. We called when we were restraining Alex back. He was yelling, "Assault, assault, someone record this." So that's when I said to Terrence, something's going on here. I'll call 911. So that's when we called 911. So that's all I got.
Thank you very much. Chairman Joyce, do you have any questions of the officers or the licensee before we hear from from Mr. Lewis? Would you like to hear from him first?
I'll wait until after the other people testify.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lewis, is there anything additional you would like to provide to the board to consider?
I would just like to say that during my time there, I was assaulted by multiple employees. I was accosted. I was detained without consent. At many points, I asked for them to call the police, call 911. They refused to do so. I'm not sure what time they finally called, but I also called 911 from my personal cell phone when I was able to get outside. I did get recordings while I was outside. There was several employees that at some point also they acknowledged the assault that went on and acted like it was a normal every night thing. There were multiple people who claimed to be employees. And then when the police officers arrived, they were magically no longer employees. Some of the employees, or at least they identified as employees, also identified as Boston police officers. So there was a lot of confusion. It was a horrible situation. I know that Alex, like the manager said, ran up the stairs. It's because they were just in shock. There was a lot going on. They had just been assaulted. So they were scared and really didn't know what to do. But primarily my issue is there was never a problem with paying the bill there. I'm not sure why my brother Trayvon was asked to leave aside from tripping up the stairs. And then from there, it's just kind of like, I think his name was Terrence, just came on me kind of like an aggressive shark immediately. And this was prior to the manager being there with him. And at that point, he was very aggressive and assaulted me and accosted me then. I really don't know what to say. There's a lot on video. I wish that I had read thoroughly through that I could have submitted some of that video, but I just glanced at the letter that I received and marked the date in the calendar. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I don't really have anything other to really share at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. And just for the record, will remain open until the board votes on Thursday morning. So you still have an opportunity if you would like to provide the board with any videos that you would like them to consider. You may do so by sending them to licensingboard@boston.gov.
Okay, thank you.
And with that, we'll move to questions from the board, starting with Chairwoman Joyce. Any questions?
If I may, on the he said we didn't call the police. I'm sure that's on 911 recording that we called almost immediately. So that's untrue.
Yeah, the incident report does indicate that the staff called the police.
And just to follow up with that, I'm sorry. I did ask multiple times for them to call the police. I was told by the staff that they were not going to call the police, that they refused to. And that's why I also called the police. I'm not sure if my 911 call was also submitted to the city council or the board as well. But there is a 911 call from myself as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely false.
I'm going to jump in. Mr. Lewis, what time did you arrive at Legacy? In your party, what time did you guys get there?
I'm not sure what time we got there. Whatever time the incident was, I'd assume it was within an hour before. That's my best guess. It was a while ago, so I really
okay, maybe I can ask the question differently. How long were you guys there, approximately?
At this point in time, my recollection recollection is about an hour.
Okay. Mr. Del Pidio, do you know how long they were there? I don't know if you have.
He's right. I would say about 45 minutes to an hour. They were not there long. It was a very slow night. We had maybe 80 people. It was very slow.
Okay. And so just to kind of summarize it in my own words, the credit card was declined. You, staff asked them to find a way to pay the bill before they left. Is that right? So.
Yep, and he had cash on him and he paid it.
Okay,
But I don't know why he was so angry about his card being declined, but he really tried to run behind the bar and get at the bartender, and the bartender really was.
okay,
And if this question is also for me, I did have cash to pay it. The reason I had questioned it is because they were unwilling to give me a receipt or anything to show what I was paying for. The bill did not sound correct. I paid it anyway with cash. At no point would I say that I entered behind the bar at all.
okay. Thank you very much. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions?
Does the premises have any other video than what they've submitted so far?
No, unfortunately, when he tried to run behind the bar, it's all the way in the end. We don't have a camera all the way in the end of the bar. And I set the surveillance of where, if you see in the report, it says that he was struck on the stairs. So I sent the stairs video to, as you can clearly see, no one was struck.
And I'd like to add on to that. When I was assaulted by Terrence, it was not on the stairs. I can't speak for Alex's situation, but I was assaulted by the bar, from the bar to the entrance of the building and in between.
Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
I don't have any questions right now. I'll wait until I see the video.
Thank you. Anything further from the board?
No.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement, and once again, the record will remain open until the board votes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Calling item number 2, Arguedas Corporation, located at 30 Bennington Street in East Boston, date of the incident November 15th, 2022. Assault and battery, patron on employee in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A, and assault and battery, patron on patron in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Ferney Pereaños, que es el nombre.
Lucely Pereaños.
Thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Boston Police Officer Maldonado.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Detective Alfred James.
Mhm.
Thank you. And is it Officer Matera? I'm sorry, I don't know your rank. Were you raising your hand as well?
And Sergeant Matera, sir.
Sergeant, thank you. Sorry about that. Can you all please raise your right hand?
No, mami, derecho, mami.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Who will be reading the police report into the record?
All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
You may proceed.
About 11:53 p.m. on Wednesday, 11/15/22, officers Maldonado and Ashman in the Gold 201 received a radio call for a fight involving approximately 10 people outside of 28 Bennington Street. Officers Pels, Gold 411 Alpha, Doran and Petruzziello, Gold 101 Frank, responded to the scene. Upon arrival, the officers observed a crowd outside Bohemio's restaurant and bar. Upon separating the crowd into parties, Officer Maldonado met with victim number 1, Paula Suazo, date of birth 4/18/76, who stated to be Bohemio's restaurant and bar manager. Suazo explained that suspect 1, Stephen Fabian Heredia Lopez, DOB of 12/24/97. Suspect number 2, Franklin Yancour Jipinkit, date of birth 2/28/82. Suspect number 3, Royo Ariolfo Orellana Napipucha, Date of birth 12/15/78, and suspect number 4, Elvis Giovanni Pensates Robles. Date of birth 12/23/99, and suspect number 5, who remains nameless due to fleeing the scene. Finished paying their tab at the bar and started to become verbally aggressive with the female servers. When asked to leave by victim number 1, Suazo, the suspects continued being confrontational towards her, the staff, and refusing to leave. The officers were able to observe all the suspects to be with slurred speech, unbalanced stance, pungent odor of alcohol, unintelligible sentences, difficulty following instructions to stand still or stay at an arm's distance from the officers, at moments, incapable of answering questions posed by the officer. At this time, victim number 1, Suazo, proceeded next door to Belarus, Colombia, and asked the manager, Alejandra Tabares, date of birth 4/19/85, for assistance from her security guard, victim number 2, who is John Jairo Alvarez Herrera, date of birth 9/26/69, to assist with the removal of the suspects due to refusing to leave her establishment. Victim number 1, Suazo, stated that victim number 2, Herrera, removed the suspects from the inside of the bar to the threshold of the door. The suspects elevated their level of confrontation and surrounded victim number 2, Herrera, shortly after proceeding to physically assault him. Victim number 3, Ricardo Lozano, date of birth 8/11/70, observed the suspects assaulting victim number 2 outside of the bar and proceeded outside in an attempt to separate the affray. Victim number 3, Lozano, stated that he was absorbed into the assault. He suffered multiple minor head injuries, including a minor laceration to the right side eyebrow and bloody nose. The officers offered medical assistance to both victims, but they both refused. Victim number 3, Lozano, stated that he would self-transport to East Boston Neighborhood Health Center. The officers ensured that the suspect is part of the scene. Patrol Supervisor Sergeant Matera notified he performed the code 35.
Thank you. We have a supplemental as well.
Yes, Detective James. Detective J tried numerous occasions to get a video of the incident. Spoke to victim manager Paula Souza about the video, asking for the video. This was always promised the video, but none could be produced. They was unable to get video from her. Detective James wanted to watch the video and have both victims pick out the suspects who were involved in the incident. Detective James was unable to get the video of the incident.
Porque no hay en el video. ¿Qué pasó? Vámonos.
Thank you very much. Mr. Suazo, would you like to address the alleged incident?
You talking to me? Sorry,
Yes.
I didn't hear you. Okay.
Yeah, would you like to
Yeah.
address the incident?
Good morning. So I'm involved here because my security guard was the one involved. What I got the story from him was that he heard a lot of conversation. Somebody came from next door from Bohemians and asked him, "Could you come and try to help us remove this guy?" There was only one person. I don't know where they got so multiple persons. And then when he walked in there, he got assaulted by the guy who he was gonna automatically when he walked in, he just got assaulted by him. So he made sure to get him out. While they were doing that, they called the police to come help him. But I don't know how all these people got involved. There was only one person who paid the bill, and he just started swearing at everybody, and he was being very rude. He only took one beer at the place. And when they asked him to pay, that's when he got really mad. That's all. Wasn't like a big incident. Nothing big. I don't know how they got all these people involved. There was only one person who was being rude and who was being escorted. Because maybe the other people got up and tried to open the door for some reason or something like that, but it was something minor.
Thank you. Is that all from you?
Yeah. ¿Quieres decir algo más?
Pero ellos se negó a pagar la 30, esa fue la razón que
Yeah, all she's saying is that he denied to pay the bill and that's it. But the manager in duty did call the cops right away, and we were very cooperative trying to help with that.
Thank you very much. We'll turn it over to the board to see if there are any questions. Chairman Joyce, do you have any questions?
I do. Thank you. Officer Maldonado, you were there that night, right?
Yes, ma'am.
In the incident report, it says the officers were able to observe all the suspects to be with slurred speech, unbalanced stance, pungent odor of alcohol, unintelligent sentences, difficulty following instructions to stand still or stay at an arm's distance, and at moments incapable of answering questions. Is there anything else you want to add, like your observations of that crowd? Do they appear drunk?
Yes,
Do they appear that they were perhaps overserved at this bar?
yes, ma'am.
Bernie? can you
Yes, yes,
Can you,
yes.
can you describe for the board or, I'm sorry, Ms. Suarez could describe for the board what the policy is on service of alcohol to patrons?
If you see a person who is intoxicated, do not serve them, and only serve them. But that's why my point was, they only had one beer. We have the the tab, which I can provide to you. That's why we printed it, and I'm gonna provide it to you. They had one beer, and
Okay.
then that's why we asked them, can you pay the bill? And they were like, they started becoming really rude. So okay, you get it, but they had one beer. We have that's why I have it here.
Which person, which is the person you're saying, is it a victim? I don't know.
Victim are notified. The other persons, I don't know how they were there because they were not. They were just with this guy, but they were not served. We only served one beer to one guy. The other people were not served. They were not in the establishment consuming.
They were not
No, that's why I don't
at any
understand
time
how.
that night?
No, they were not in that place. Well, they might have been earlier, but I don't think so. They were. None of the names that I hear. I know only one person, John Heido Alvarez and Alejandra, and then Paula. But the other people, I don't know how they got involved in this. We don't know none of them, and there was only one beer who we served. Maybe the guys were outside waiting for him. I don't know, but the incident happened within minutes. It was like he came in, grabbed a beer, drank a beer, and that's why I have the tab, and I want to provide it to you guys. It's only one beer that they had.
Were you there that night, Fernie?
I was not. My manager on duty next door was, and she actually spoke to the officer, and then also my security was there.
Okay, and then I want to focus in for a minute on Detective James's supplemental report where he said that he was unable to get the video. And that the establishment did not provide the video to him, and he tried on numerous occasions. Can you speak to that?
I guess they went and spoke to Paula. Paula was she's the manager on duty, and I don't know if you guys are familiar, but Ferdy was he's out of the country for some reason, and he's out of the country, so he's the one that has video to that, and I don't know why they were not provided with that. That I can't tell you.
Compañía compras a Verizon.
Oh, because they
no nos puso bien.
Because they changed the company from Comcast to Verizon, and Verizon did not provide them the good service that they were supposed to do, and it wasn't
Okay,
being.
back up, because this is a very important issue to the board, cooperation with the police in providing video, if you have video. I don't want you obstructing the detective's investigation. Was there video from this day? This night?
No, porque
No.
pues teníamos.
Was no video?
No, there was no video because we had changed from
When did you-
Verizon to Comcast.
When did you change?
Comcast first and then Verizon.
Okay, that's a problem, because I think we've talked before about having video available at 24 hours, a 24-hour contact. I don't care if the person's in the country or outside the country. The police are doing their job and they need to be able to obtain video if requested at any time. So let me know, back up, when did you change your video and how do you establish that for the board?
She's saying that the video is perfectly working now.
Oh, when did you change, when was the?
24/7. It's not that we changed it, it's just that we changed from carrier from Comcast to Verizon. And they when they did it, they didn't fix the cameras. They had to upgrade the cameras to the new internet.
Detective James, is that what they told you when you went to get the video several times on numerous occasions?
Ma'am,
La manager no sabía eso.
I was never told that, ma'am. I just went and asked them for the video, and I keep being promised to get the video and never received it.
Pero no sabía.
I'm sorry, who did you speak to? If you recall?
Spoke to,
Paula?
I forgot the lady next to you. I spoke to her. I
Usali,
spoke-
¿cómo que se habló con usted?
Sí, pero yo pensé que lo estaban cogiendo, pero que habíamos cambiado con por Verizon y Verizon no nos había puesto en la cámara, necesitábamos un password.
spoke to a number that
Organizar.
there.
Yeah.
And promised the video and never received it.
Yo pensaba que estaban funcionando, pero no, hasta ya no la
Yeah,
pusieron.
because she was under the impression that they were working. That's why she told you she was gonna get it, but then we found out that they wasn't recording.
Pero ya sí, ya no está funcionando.
But they are recording now. They're 24/7 recording. And we also, I don't know if I think I spoke to the sergeant who is there, and he sees that we now actually just put cameras outside the premises too. Also, I spoke to Detective Montesino, I think it is, and we show him that we have now we established cameras outside the establishments just for future. Hopefully, we don't have no problem about future. Ms. Joyce.
Kind of hard to believe that this, one particular night where there was a fight on the street, that night your video just happened to not be working because you changed providers, but I'm gonna have to reflect on that a little bit. Commissioner Curran and Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions?
For the police officer Maldonado, that evening at the time, who did you get the story that 5 people were involved?
Sir, I spoke with Miss the manager on Paula Suazo. She
Yeah.
told me that there was one particular individual, his name was Stephen Fabian Heredia, who was causing the commotion.
Yeah.
Side of the bar. The other 3 individuals that are involved are his friends and happened to be on scene when we arrived. They
Okay.
were grouped. They were together. They seemed to be assaulted. I'm sorry. They seemed to be working together. When we spoke with the victim, victim Lozano, he went ahead and told me, he's like, I came out because I saw them attacking the security guard. So
Yeah.
I came to help him. And as he was helping him, he got absorbed into it. He said that all of them participated in assaulting.
Okay. Thank
Officer, quick question. Mr. Officer Maldonado,
Sir,
when you came, they were outside the business, they were not inside.
that's correct.
So they never told you that they were inside. The only one
Bernie,
person.
I'm just gonna jump in. Bernie, it's my hearing. I'm gonna jump in and.
Okay, of course. I'm just trying to get the story. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
get, because I don't.
You weren't there- I know, but you weren't there that night, so you
I'm
really have
not.
nothing to add but translate, so we're gonna move on.
Okay.
Commissioner Curran, any further questions?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
Just 2 comments. One, just make sure that when you're serving your customers that they are not already intoxicated so that they don't get overserved. And 2, it'd just be more helpful to have a person who has personal knowledge of the incident to be here at the hearing.
Sounds
Chairman
good.
Joyce, anything further?
No, thank you.
The board will take this matter under advisement as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 3, Las Palmas Market, Inc., doing business as El Palmar Restaurant located at 290 Bennington Street in East Boston, dated the incident November 20th, 2022. Assault and battery, patron on patron, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
I am Michael Warius for El Palmar Restaurant. I am here with the owner as well, who's on the Zoom. The owner did not have firsthand knowledge of the incident. He was not present, but I did have a affidavit from the manager.
Thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Sergeant Coughlin or Officer Gouchard were summons, but Lieutenant Detective Troy, it seems.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Are there any other individuals with first-hand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and Mr. Palmer, you as well? Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Lieutenant Executive Troy, if you could please proceed with the police report.
Reading from a police report authored by Officer Gouchard on November 20th, 2022, and it reads as follows: 6:28 on Sunday, 11/20/2022, Officer Gouchard was on a code 19, which is a walk and talk in Day Square, East Boston, when he onsighted a fight at 290 Bennington Street. Officer Gouchard heard screaming on exiting his marked Boston Police Cruiser. Officer Gouchard observed the suspect, Kevin Vasquez, with a clenched fist swinging and missing the victim, Edgar Rodriguez. That's victim number one, Mr. Edgar Rodriguez. Officer Gouchard quickly separated the suspect from the victim and called for additional units. Due to a language barrier between the officer on scene and a Spanish-speaking officer arrived. The suspect stated that he was in line to get food inside of El Palmar when he was approached by victim number one, who got in his personal space. The suspect stated that's where the incident happened, but would not elaborate on the incident to the officers on scene. Officer spoke to victim number one, Edgar Rodriguez, who stated that he was in line for the bathroom inside El Palmar when the suspect pulled him back and stated, "I go first." Victim number one, Mr. Rodriguez, stated that he asked the suspect what was his problem, and the suspect began to insult him. Mr. Rodriguez stated the suspect called somebody, suspect number two, on the telephone, who entered the bar and pushed victim number one, Mr. Rodriguez. Mr. Rodriguez stated that this victim number two, Mr. Daniel Ramirez, stood up and tried to separate the parties and was punched. And suspect number two punched Mr. Ramirez in the mouth and fled. It should be noted that suspect number two was not on scene when officers arrived and no information was given. Victim number two, Daniel Ramirez, approached officers and stated that he was assaulted. Victim number two stated that he tried to separate suspect number one, Kevin Vasquez, and victim number one, Edgar Rodriguez, inside El Palmar when suspect number one called somebody who entered and punched him in the mouth. Officers observed victim number two, Mr. Ramirez's mouth to be bleeding. He refused EMS. The code 905, Sergeant Coughlin arrived on scene and performed the code 35 on the business inside the business for patron-on-patron assault. Suspect number two, Kevin Vasquez, was summoned to East Boston Court for assault and battery. That's the extent of the police report.
Thank you very much. Attorney Warriors, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, thank you. El Palmar has been in business for about 10 years. I just took over for Attorney Charney, who retired representing them. And this is the first incident. My client's taken this very seriously and was advised, even though he wasn't on site, he was advised of the incident right away. And the people who were present, Claudia Villanueva is the manager. She's provided me an affidavit, which I'd like to read to you, and I will email it to you as well, that she says that I was the manager working on site November 20th. On that evening, Daniel Ramirez and Edgar Rodriguez, two regular customers, were eating at the restaurant. The restaurant's small. It has a couple tables in it, and they occupy one of the tables. They were eating food. They weren't intoxicated. Liquor is only, or beer and cordials are only served to individuals who are eating dinner. It's a very small, about 200 square foot dining room area that has a bathroom. It does have a takeout window. This happened her words, a loud argument ensued when other individuals that were unknown to her at the time entered the restaurant to pick up their takeout food. That would be Kevin Vasquez and the unidentified individual. They were waiting for their takeout food. They were not served alcohol. They initiated an argument with Mr. Ramirez and Mr. Rodriguez and began pushing each other. I asked them to leave. They complied and left the restaurant. At that point, I believed the situation had resolved. Then Mr. Ramirez and Mr. Rodriguez left the restaurant, and I learned that a physical altercation had broken out in the street. That's when the officer, I believe, noticed the punches that Mr. Vasquez was throwing in the street afterward. And then Ms. Villanueva says, afterward, I learned that the parties knew each other previously and were enemies before encountering each other at the restaurant. So it seems to be a chance encounter. The aggressors were not served on the premises, but that they did, I guess, recognize these other people they had problems with. And that was kind of what was stated by the suspect to the police, that he was in line to get food at El Palmar when he was approached by victim one, who got in his personal space, but didn't want to elaborate about what happened. It seems that these people just had bad blood with one another, like the Hatfields and McCoys, I guess. The other thing that's notable is Officer Maldonado, who was on the last hearing, actually translated on that event as well. And the police report doesn't note that anybody was intoxicated, or had any indicia of being intoxicated.
Thank you, Attorney Morris. And if you could submit that affidavit to licensing board at boston.gov as well, make sure it's shared with the commissioners.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Turn it over to the board to see if there are any questions. Chairwoman Joyce, any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thanks.
Commissioner Kern,
Either. Thank you.
Commissioner Saxon.
None for me.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you.
Calling item number 4, Decibel Enterprises LLC, doing business as D-Bar, located at 1238 to 1242 Dorchester Avenue in Dorchester. Date of the incident, December 18th, 2022. Assault and battery, patron on patron in the parking lot in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Brian Piccini, manager of record and owner of Decibel Enterprises.
Thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
It's Police Officer Rudolph Lewis.
Sergeant Chris Burns.
Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? You know, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. And who will be reading the police report into the record?
I will. Police Officer Rudolph Lewis.
Thank you, Officer Lewis. You may proceed.
Okay. About 9:21 p.m. on December 18th, 2022, Officer Lewis and Foley, assigned to the Harry 102 Frank, responded to a radio call for a disturbance at 1236 Dorchester Ave, Boston, Mass. Upon arrival, Officer Lewis and Foley spoke with the suspect, Noel Graham, who stated that a verbal dispute began inside D-Bar and eventually escalated to a physical altercation on the street in front of the above location. Graham appeared to be extremely intoxicated while having this conversation with officers. Graham also refused to expand on what transpired during the altercation. Officer Maraca, Harry 435 Frank, spoke with victim number 1, Stephanie Miranda, victim number 2, Casey Ruiz, victim number 3, Day. Victims 2 and 3 stated that Graham was being drunk and unreasonable. A verbal dispute began inside D-Bar where Graham was using homosexual slurs directed towards victims 2 and 3. Victims 2 and 3 did not inform Officer Maraca of the exact slurs that were made within the establishment. This dispute eventually escalated to a physical altercation on the street in front of the above establishment. Officers also spoke with victim number 1, who stated that she attempted to intervene in a physical altercation on the street, and during the process got her earring pulled from her left ear. Victim number 1 stated to Officer Maraca that at one point Graham called victim 2 and 3 faggot and shit during the verbal assault. Victims 2 and 3 acknowledged that these statements were made by nodding their heads in agreement. All parties involved were offered access to EMS, which they declined. Sergeant Burns, Harry 912 Frank, responded and performed a licensed premise inspection notice. Notice given to Robert Diotalevi, citation number 027601 for assault and battery patron on patron.
Thank you, Officer Lewis. Mr. Pacini, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Sure. We didn't know of the incident happening. We didn't see any verbal dispute inside of the building. We were only notified by Sergeant Burns 90 minutes after we had closed. So we closed at 8 p.m. All of our clients were gone and out of the building. We were locked down and closed. And it wasn't until Sergeant Burns knocked on the door and my security guard manager answered and was handed the citation and said, well, I was told, he said, you guys didn't know about this. You didn't do any wrong. This is a formality of giving you this violation. And that's all we know.
Thank you. Chairman Joyce, do you have any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Carn, any questions?
Yeah, no questions. Thank you.
And Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
None from me either. Thank you.
Thank you. All the board will take this under advisement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 5, MW&W Inc. doing business as China Pearl Restaurant located at 5 to 9A Tyler Street. Stated the incident January 1st, 2023. Premise operating after 2 a.m. posted closing hour at 2:30 a.m. in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 64. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney Green, Madam Chair, members of the commission. My name is Adam Barnowski, 255 State Street in Boston. I'm here on behalf of the licensee. With me is Brian Moy, who is the owner of the premises, who was on site the evening and has firsthand knowledge of the incident.
Thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
I believe that's going to be me, Officer Mark Casino.
Thank you. And are there any other individuals with first-hand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Oh, Detective Hernandez, I can't tell if you're trying to speak to us. You're on mute.
Sorry, I wrote that. Detective Hernandez, I wrote the supplemental.
Thank you. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Officer, if you could please proceed with reading the police report into the record.
At 2:30 a.m. Sunday, January 1st, 2023, Officer Casino, the Alpha 435, and Officer Wynn, the Alpha 436, observed a line of people outside of the Sojo establishment on 9A Tyler Street in Boston. Officers were in the area at the above location and observed what appeared to be an active line outside the Sojo Bar and Restaurant, with the door security guard letting people in. Officers are aware that most bars are closed at 2 a.m., and it was at this time that the officers went to the establishment to inquire about the occupancy. Upon approach to the premises, the door security guard saw officers and immediately shut and locked the door so officers could not enter. Officers demanded that the door be unlocked as officers observed people being allowed into a licensed premise. Officers then were able to enter the establishment and made their way to the second floor, where a large party of approximately 200 plus people were actively ordering drinks at 2 separate staffed bar tops, with people actively drinking alcohol and smoking what smelled like burnt marijuana. Officers spoke with the owner, Jim Tran, who stated that they were attempting to close, but they were having trouble getting people to leave. Tran told officers that he had 12 security guards. Excuse me, I'm sorry. He had 12 security guards staffed for the night. Officers witnessed multiple security guards on the premises, none of which were attempting to get people out of the establishment. The head security guard told officers that they had cleared out the back area, which upon further inspection, the back room area was full of approximately 50 to 75 more people, some drinking alcoholic drinks, with an active bar staffed by workers serving alcohol. Officers notified the patrol supervisor, Alpha 900, Sergeant Chevret, of a possible Code 35 violation and request more units to assist in the dispersal of people from the premises.
Thank you, Officer Casino and Detective Hernandez. If you could read the supplemental in.
Yes, good morning. I'm reading from a police report, which I wrote on Monday, January 2nd, 2023. Sergeant Detective Willem Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez assigned to the BPD licensed premise unit responded to China Pearl / Shoju located 9 Tyler Street to speak to staff regarding a license premise violation incident that had occurred the prior evening. Detective spoke to the person in charge, Ms. Vanna Tran, who confirmed that she was aware of the incident. Ms. Tran was advised by detectives to preserve any of the establishment surveillance video related to the incident. As a result of the incident, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued license premise inspection notice 059791 for premise operating after the 2 a.m. posted closing hour at 2:30. Ms. Tran signed for and accepted the notice. That is all.
Thank you, Detective. Attorney Barnowski, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, thank you. So I'd like an opportunity in a moment to ask a few questions of the officer on site that evening, as well as my client, Brian Moy. But at the outset, I do want to just provide some context to the evening. So this was New Year's Eve. This licensed establishment is unique in some ways because they have a 2 o'clock closing hour on the liquor license with 2:30 exit there and a 3 o'clock CB license with all patrons out to be, out at 3. So I think that what I'm anticipating had occurred, and Mr. Moy might be able to provide more information on this, is that New Year's Eve is not unlike other busy nights, but it is unique in that there's more people that are out and about and looking for other places to go once certain establishments close. There's nothing illegal about having a line outside the door at that time, or having any patrons inside at that time, because they have this closing hour of 3 p.m. with all patrons out. 3 a.m. with all patrons out at 3:30 a.m. So while you have people that need to stop drinking at 2, or last call at 2 with people out by 2:30, there is generally going to be some spillover between people who were already there with an event ending and people who are lingering despite some efforts to get people out. So with that, Madam Chair, I would like an opportunity to ask some questions of Officer Casino. So Officer Casino, you were on site the evening in question, correct?
That is correct, sir.
And so you have you have personal knowledge of the facts in the report?
That's correct.
And what do you recall what time you entered the premises?
It was a little after 2:30.
A little after 2:30. Okay. And were you able to speak with Mr. Brian Moy, who's on the Zoom this evening?
I haven't seen him in this video yet. However, I did speak with several people who were up there. I don't recall that name specifically, and I haven't been able to see him with the way this configuration.
Okay, understandable. Thank you. With the folks that you did speak with, were the representatives from the licensee generally cooperative?
Yeah, I'd say they were cooperative. The head security guard was certainly a little misleading with his, he continued to tell me as well as my partner that they were actively working on getting people out or attempting to get people out, but at no point while we were there have we seen any such effort.
Okay. And with the license on the CV being 3:30, there was no requirement that the patrons leave at that time, correct?
So we had asked to see their license, to which we weren't provided with, and there was no one who had stated that they had a license that had exceeded the typical timing of 2 to 2:30.
And if you had been aware that they had the 3 a.m. with patrons out by 3:30 license, would that have changed any of the conduct of yourself or your fellow officers that evening?
It would depend ultimately if they have an extended serving license, because there were certainly drinks being served past 2:30, at least while we were there in our presence, from the two multiple bars that they do have there on the premises.
And was there any way to determine from your visual inspection of the premises whether the beverages that were being served were alcoholic or non-alcoholic in nature?
I mean, the beers that were seen, unless they have different contents. I mean, we didn't test the contents inside of the, inside of the glasses that were being served, but it was clear that they were being made behind the bar and what appeared to be alcohol.
All right, and in the report, it mentioned that there was 200 plus persons. How was that figure determined?
Just estimated. Why I patrol the downtown district and area A regularly working weekends, after bar closing with large crowds. So those numbers were not counted individually. However, I do have just an experience with visually observing large crowds in excess numbers. So that was an estimated number.
Okay.
Based on the size of the room as well as the size of the back room.
But there's no allegation here that there was any overcrowding on site. Is that correct?
I don't know their occupancy limit, so I can't speak to that.
Okay. The license, the capacity on the license is 645. I'm not sure if you have been able to see a copy of the license since the report was issued?
I have not. It typically moves up to detective level, where they have like sergeant. I believe it's the other sergeants that are on this hearing. Then end up serving the license premise code 35 violation. So I have not personally seen it after the fact, and I hadn't seen it when requested while on scene.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. No more questions of the officer.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I did want to get some testimony of my client, Mr. Moy, if I may. All right, Mr. Moy, can you just state your name for the record, please?
My name is Brian Moy, M like Mary, O, Y like yellow.
Thank you. And could you briefly explain your role at the licensed establishment?
I am the operating partner owner of the restaurants and event space throughout the building.
And how long have you been in business at the location?
The business itself has been under MW&W since 1986. I have been involved in the business operations since 1995, and I have managed and operated the business since 2004.
Thank you. And could you, for the record, could you state your closing hour for the sale of alcoholic beverages?
It is 2 a.m.
And for the record, could you state your closing hour on food and non-alcoholic beverage service?
We do close at 2 a.m. as well. There are some times that we will extend to 2:30 or 3 a.m. based on our license and depending on the night.
And is it true that your license for food service and alcohol is 3 a.m. with all patrons out by 3:30 a.m.?
Alcohol service until 2 a.m., food until 3 a.m., and last patron out of the building at 3:30 a.m., which is written on my CV license.
All right, thank you. And so in your experience, there's nothing in your license which would prohibit a patron from staying on the premises after the alcohol service has ended until your CV license restriction cuts off at 3:30. Is that correct?
Correct.
So on New Year's Eve, can you explain just for the commission, can you explain the food and beverage program on that evening and what was being offered to patrons after 2 a.m.?
After 2 a.m., the kitchen has some snacks that we thought would help, quote unquote, sober some people up. We do, if people ask for water, juice, soda, we do provide that. And that is essentially what we do.
And in your recollection, when did the officers arrive that evening?
To my recollection, it was prior to 2:15. I say that because once the officers arrived, I did speak to a police officer. I only see Mark's iPhone, but I do remember his face. and I believe I had my licenses in hand at the top of the staircase. I was never asked to produce it. And then there was a sergeant or a captain, I believe, that showed up. They told me to wait until he arrived. Unfortunately, I do not remember his name, but he did show up. He asked me for my licenses. I did show him my licenses. I showed him my, he asked me how many people were in. I said 290 was what the event was. He said, is there 290 right now? I said, no, I believe right now there's about 50, 60 people. That was the extent of showing my license, producing my license, the amount of people at the space. I'd say around 215 because once we did clear the room of the people, I myself personally, along with security, was on the street, and we were making sure that people were not in the front of the building, getting in their Ubers, getting to their vehicles. And at 2:30 a.m. roughly was when the street was clear, and I went back upstairs.
All right, thank you. And were you able to review your alcohol sales report for the evening in question?
I did. Last purchase made in my POS, which 100% of our sales go into, was 1:58 a.m.
And for the record, that was an alcohol sale.
I believe so, yes.
And could you clarify who is Jim Tran?
Jim Tran is one of my managers.
And Jim Tran was referenced in the police report, correct?
Correct. He was actually off on that day, spending New Year's Eve with his family. He requested that time off 2 weeks prior to New Year's Eve.
All right. So for the record, he was not on site that night?
Correct.
He was not working that night?
Correct.
And to your information and recollection, he then did not speak with any officers that evening?
No, I was the only one that spoke to any officers throughout the incident, besides my head of security. We were the only two individuals that spoke and met with police.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions at this time.
Thank you. We'll move to the board. Jerome and Joyce, do you have any questions?
I do. Thank you. Mr. Moy, in the police report, actually, I'm going to back up. It says about 2:30, the officers went into the licensed premise unit. Officer, before you enter a licensed premise unit, do you call into the district to say that you're entering a licensed premise?
Yes, ma'am. I did not review the call log prior to this hearing. However, it should all be accessible, and we both, my partner as well as I, did call off on entering that establishment, as well as which would be time stamped, as well as the establishment street number that we will be entering.
Okay. Anyone from the licensed premise unit have that information about what time they called in?
Lieutenant Detective Troy, if I may, Commissioner. Reading from the computer aided dispatch, which is the operations division, which the officers are obliged to call to prior to entering a licensed premise. It says they entered it exactly 2:29. They called off on it, entered the premises at 2:34 and 48 seconds. And then the sergeant arrived and the street was still closed per the sergeant's direction at 3:13 and 54 seconds. So Tyler Street was still closed then.
Thank you. So I imagine they didn't wait 15 minutes before, they didn't enter 15 minutes before they called it in. Mr. Moy, the incident report states that that the officers observed people actively ordering drinks at 2:30. How does that line up with your understanding of state law about alcohol? I mean, not getting into whether it was a non-alcoholic beer or not, but as manager of record, how do you explain this happening, especially on New Year's Eve, a night where you should expect large crowds and having a hard time getting, maybe having a hard time moving people along at the close of the night? So people were still actively drinking at 2:30. How do you rationalize that for me?
Personally, I did not see that. The bar was being broken down already. Maybe the officers witnessed also there was a bus cart or two that had liquor bottles on it. That bus card is not used for service. That bus card is only used for setup and breakdown.
Okay. So then back to, you said the last sale, or your attorney said the last sale was at 1:58 a.m., last sale of alcohol?
It was the last sale of the evening. I did not get a chance to look at the exact sale of it. I asked my manager to pull the sales report to see when the last transaction was.
And then you said you have kitchen snacks come out afterwards. Do people pay for them?
No, for this
Transactions
particular,
of that too?
no, for this particular evening, because it was New Year's Eve, we had the kitchen produce some snacks, some French fries, some fried chicken, and some bowls, essentially. And that was meant for staff and friends that were still in the space after we were clearing people out.
Okay, someone testified, either you or your attorney said that that is to help sober people up,
That is what I said, correct, yes.
but it's really for staff and friends.
It was for staff, friends, and I consider some of our guests and patrons as friends as well. However, at that time that the officers came up, like I said, I think there was only about 50 people left in the room, of which we had 12 that were security. We had some bar staff, etc.
Okay. Could you explain to me why the door security did not let the police in?
Honestly, I cannot explain that. He has been reprimanded. He has been suspended for 2 months of no employment with us. My honest truth is that I think it was a flight or fight response. Why do people run from police when police ask people to stop sometimes? He never gave us a straight answer. I'm baffled by it. We are all baffled by it. And subsequently, he has been suspended because that is not a protocol or something that, as soon as I heard that, honestly, I was flabbergasted.
Okay. And then the last thing, the smell of burnt marijuana.
We do not allow any smoking of any kind, including vaping indoors. I do know that when I see people come into the door, or when they enter the premise, we do sometimes smell a large odor on people's bodies and clothes. But I don't believe that I saw any visual smoke. The place was not smoky. I don't believe the police report stated that they saw any smoke.
Actually, it does. It says observed people actively drinking and smoking what smelled like burnt marijuana. So it appears that they observed people smoking. Is that correct, officer? Did you observe people smoking?
Yeah, that is correct. And I'm not sure if it was or how it would get submitted into such a hearing. But all of this event, including the occupancy, was all recorded on multiple body-worn cameras.
You could send that
if that needs to be observed.
Okay, it's good to know. Mr. Moy, do you have any video from that night that you'd like to submit?
I can produce my sales report that shows the last transaction prior to 2 a.m. Otherwise, I can only go off my own account and understanding of how the business is operated, what this bar was doing at the time, which is breaking down. Staff was eager to get off work. Nobody wanted to be there any later than they had to be on the clock.
Okay, I'm gonna turn it over to Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon for questions.
Can we get the body worn camera? Is there a way for us to do that?
Karen, Sergeant Gallagher here. We'll put in a request for that body-worn camera for you.
Okay, can we hold the record open until we hear about that request? Because it might take a little while, right?
Yep, thank you. And Sergeant Gallagher, if we need to request that as well, let us know. The board will.
We'll do. I'll make that request tonight, sir.
Sounds like that would answer it pretty quick. They were in there at 2:30. So I would wait for that. Thank you.
Commissioner Saxon, any questions?
Yeah, just a general question about the point of sale. Does it include credit card and cash transactions?
It includes any type of transaction that's business, yes.
Thank you. Otherwise, I'll wait for the body cam.
Thank you. Anything further from the board at this time? Thank you. And Mr. Moy, Attorney Barnowski, if there are reports you would like to send to the board as well, you may do so. As it sounds like the record will be held open until we receive video, which we will be in touch with how to receive. With that, the board will take this under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 6, Omni Boston Seaport Entertainment LLC doing business as the Omni Boston Hotel at the Seaport, located at 450 Summer Street. Dated the incident November 25th, 2022. Persons under 21 in possession of alcohol on premise in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 34, and failure to ID patrons for alcohol in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 64. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney Green, Dennis Quilty representing the licensee. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. With me this morning is David Hahn representing the Omni Hotel, as well as Mark Malatesta and Dominic Egling, who represent the restaurant Coquette, which operates under a management agreement within the hotel space. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
I am.
Thank you, Detective Hernandez. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
William Gallagher, if need be.
Thank you. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Detective Hernandez. If you could please proceed with the police report.
Good morning. I'll be reading from a police report, which I wrote on Friday, November 25th, 2022. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez, signed to the BPD license premise unit. We're conducting a license premise inspection of Coquette located at 450 Summer Street in Boston. We're walking into the dining area of the restaurant. Detectives observed a table of 6 female patrons with 6 glasses of alcoholic beverages on the table. Detectives noticed that these patrons looked young and detectives asked them to produce identification to confirm their ages. All of the individuals immediately stated they were under 21 years of age. 3 out of the 6 patrons produced their valid driver's license confirming they were under 21 years of age. The driver's license confirmed the identities of Helen Sanchez, Kiri Sanchez, Tanisha Johnson. The other 3 patrons' identities were later confirmed by the Registry of Motor Vehicles to be Lumid Lucienne, Wendy Alfaro, and Liz Salazar. Asked the group how to obtain the beverage they had in front of them. All the individuals stated that their server did not ask them for any identification. Detectives brought the situation to the attention of the person in charge, Mr. Dominic Egling. All the individuals will be summoned to court for persons under 21 possession of alcohol. As a result of what detectives observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued license premise inspection notice 059973 for 6 persons under 21 years old in possession of alcohol on premise. Mr. Egling signed and accepted the notice.
Thank you, Detective Hernandez. Attorney Quilty, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Thank you. If I might just question Detective Hernandez briefly. Morning, Detective.
Good morning.
Just the licensee or the persons you interacted with, did they cooperate with you after this was brought to their attention?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this is a restaurant, correct, in the lobby area of the Omni Hotel?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Officer. I have no questions for you. Thank you very much. I do want to indicate, Madam Chair, again, that this the Coquette operation operates under a management agreement. The licensee is the hotel entity. Coquette is a fine dining establishment in the hotel. It is not a nightclub. It is a restaurant. Staff, the operations are that persons are checked entering and then checked again at table. Unfortunately, in the night in question, as Mr. Malatesta or Mr. Egling confirmed to you, servers who told them that they had checked, in fact, did not. The server who basically lied to the operations folks was terminated. The person at the door, simply people did not do their jobs is what happened. Mr. Malatesta and his team have retrained everyone with regard to how persons are to enter and persons are to be carded and asked for identification at table. And we can assure you that this will not happen again. Mr. Hahn is the representative of the hotel operator. He He has no personal knowledge, but we wanted to make sure that as the licensee, they were represented. And I would like to just ask Mr. Malatesta if he could explain to the board what steps were taken once this incident was brought to the management's attention. Mr. Malatesta?
Yep, I'm right here.
Yes,
I
sir.
just want to add one thing as well. So we are, again, like Mr. Pulte said, a fine dining establishment, which means we are open for dinner relatively late. These 6 individuals were not carded at the door because they did have a dining reservation. So you are allowed to go in and eat at the restaurant, which they were allowed to do. So they were carded by the gentleman at the door, but then allowed in because they did have a reservation. So that is policy that that gentleman actually didn't do anything he wasn't supposed to do. But once the individuals made it to the table, our server just didn't do their job. They assumed that they've been carded. They know that they're required to do that. We terminated this person immediately. We went through all the training again with our team, make sure that everyone had up-to-date tips, and made sure that everyone knows we have a zero tolerance policy for this and that they're required to check everyone's ID at all times, no matter if there is a door guy or if there is not.
Thank you, Mr. Malatesta. Again, Madam Chair, members of the board, we submit that this was a failure or mistake on the part of an employee who was dealt with. It is not the policy of the of Coquette or the hotel to allow such things to occur. And again, we can assure you that this will not happen again. And we're certainly here to take any of your questions.
How long have you been open at this location?
Mr. Malatesta?
We opened at the same time of the hotel. So Mr. Harmon, would that be about a year and a half ago?
September 9, 2001.
Okay. You operate other places in the city of Boston, correct, Mr. Malatesta?
Yes.
Kyrie Sanchez, date of birth 2/9/2006. My quick math is that she was 16 and being served alcohol at Coquette.
She's a high school student, man.
Yeah. That is unbelievable to me. I think you need to do a better job. This better not happen again.
It will not, I promise. This is
I
unacceptable.
don't care what time of day this is. If it's 3 o'clock, I don't care if their parents made their reservation. This is a real problem. You cannot tell me that someone at 16 years old you thought looked as if they're 21. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you. I think it's completely.
Any other questions, Commissioner Curran, Commissioner Saxon?
Just to second your sentiment. That's it. Thank you.
No questions.
Should be noted, when we spoke to the girls, they told us that they learned that that's the place to go to on social media for underage kids to go and drink. So one of the girls explained to us that she went to the bar initially, ordered a drink there. When they didn't get carded at the bar, they came back to the table and they knew it was okay to order. And that's when the rest of the girls decided to order. I mean, they looked really young. That's what brought our attention to that table.
Anything further from the board?
Yeah, just what time did you go in there? Detective, it doesn't say at the police report.
Give me 1 second.
I believe it was just after midnight.
Okay.
Just a little bit before.
So they had a dinner reservation and they were still there drinking at midnight? What time? Yeah, I'd like to know what time that dinner reservation was, that you have a table with a 16-year-old still drinking at midnight. But I don't have any other questions. It's even more disturbing.
Kitchen is open until midnight, so we still take reservations up until 11:45.
Great. 16-year-old coming in without an ID and being served at midnight. Noted. I don't have any other questions.
If there's nothing further from the board, then the board will take this under advisement as well. Thank you. Calling item number 7, Castaneda Gomez Corporation doing business as La Fonda Colombiana, located at 972 to 974 Saratoga Street in East Boston, dated the incident December 7th, 2022. Bottle service taking place without Boston Licensing Board permission in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64. Is anybody present on behalf of the licensee? It appears nobody is present. They were served. This has not been rescheduled. Chairman Joyce, would you like to have this read into the record, or would you like to reschedule?
Reschedule. Thank you.
With that, those are all of the items before the board this morning. Thank you. That will adjourn this morning's hearing. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.